The plane was already thousands of feet above the ground when the truth hit him harder than turbulence ever could. Surrounded by luxury, silence, and strangers who avoided eye contact, one of the most powerful men in the business world realized something terrifying on Christmas Eve. He had never felt this alone in his life. The hum of the engines sounded like a reminder of how empty success could be when there was no one waiting for you at the destination. And just when he thought the night would pass like every other hollow celebration, a small, unexpected voice would crack open a part of his heart he had buried for decades. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us of our humanity, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment below where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps these stories reach hearts around the world. Richard Halston had everything the world said a man should want. He was the CEO of a global technology empire, a self-made billionaire whose name appeared regularly on magazine covers and business news headlines. His calendar was always full, his phone never stopped buzzing, and his assistants treated his time like sacred currency. Yet on that Christmas Eve flight, sitting alone in first class with a glass of untouched champagne beside him, Richard felt like the poorest man on the plane. He was flying to another city for another meeting, another deal, another year of avoiding the silence that waited for him at home. No wife, no children, no family dinner, just a penthouse apartment decorated by designers who didn't know him and holiday lights he never bothered to turn on. Richard had learned long ago that emotions were liabilities. Growing up in a cramped apartment with parents who argued more than they spoke kindly, he decided early that success would be his escape. He studied while others played, worked while others rested, and climbed every ladder placed in front of him without ever looking back. Along the way, friendships faded, love slipped through his fingers, and Christmas became just another date on the calendar. He told himself it didn't matter. He told himself loneliness was the price of greatness. But that night, at 30,000 feet, the life felt heavier than usual. A few rows behind him sat a little boy named Oliver Bennett, no older than 8, with messy brown hair and eyes full of quiet curiosity. He was flying economy with his mother, Emily Bennett, a nurse who had just finished a double shift before rushing to catch the flight. They were heading to visit Oliver's grandmother, who lived alone in a small town and insisted on cooking Christmas dinner no matter how tired she was. Oliver had never flown before, and everything fascinated him: the seatbelt sign, the wings cutting through clouds, the way people pretended not to see each other. Unlike the adults around him, Oliver noticed things. When Oliver wandered forward to use the restroom and passed through the curtain separating economy from first class, he noticed Richard staring blankly out the window, eyes distant, shoulders heavy. The boy didn't see a CEO or a powerful man. He saw someone who looked sad. Someone who looked like his grandmother did after Grandpa died. Someone who looked lonely. Oliver stopped walking. His mother called his name softly, but before she could reach him, the boy turned and spoke the words that would change the course of Richard Halston's life. "Mom says lonely people need friends," said the little boy to the CEO on Christmas Eve. The words were simple, innocent, honest, and they landed like a thunderbolt. Richard turned, startled, ready to dismiss the interruption, but something in the child's eyes froze him. There was no judgment there, no expectation, just concern. For a moment, Richard forgot how to respond. No one had spoken to him like that in years, not without an agenda, not without fear, not without wanting something in return. He felt something tighten in his chest, something unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Emily hurried forward, apologizing, embarrassed, explaining that Oliver sometimes spoke without thinking. Richard waved it off, his voice unusually gentle. "It's okay," he said. "Truly okay." Oliver smiled, satisfied, as if he had simply stated a fact, and returned to his seat. But Richard remained still, replaying the sentence over and over in his mind. Lonely people need friends. Not success. Not money. Not applause. Friends. The rest of the flight passed differently. Richard noticed things he usually ignored: the couple holding hands across the aisle, the flight attendant laughing with a passenger, the sound of shared stories and quiet warmth. For the first time in years, he wondered what it would feel like to belong somewhere. When the plane landed, instead of rushing off as usual, Richard waited. He watched Oliver and Emily gather their bags, and on impulse, he approached them. He thanked the boy for his honesty and offered to help with their luggage. Emily was surprised but grateful. They walked together through the terminal, talking about small things, school, nursing shifts, holiday plans. Simple conversation, yet it felt more real than any boardroom discussion Richard had ever had. That night, instead of going to his empty apartment, Richard did something he had never done before. He accepted an invitation. Emily had mentioned that her mother wouldn't mind an extra guest for Christmas dinner. Normally, Richard would have declined without a second thought. But something inside him refused to go back to silence. He showed up with a store-bought pie and an awkward smile, unsure of what he was doing. The house was small, warm, and perfect. The kind of place Richard hadn't stepped into since childhood. There were mismatched chairs, laughter that came easily, and stories told over slightly burned food. Oliver talked endlessly, Emily smiled more than she had in weeks, and her mother treated Richard like he was just another person, not a title. As the evening unfolded, Richard felt layers of armor slowly fall away. No one asked him about stock prices or acquisitions. They asked if he was happy. The question stunned him. Over the following months, Richard's life began to change in quiet but profound ways. He started volunteering at a local shelter, not for publicity but for connection. He reconnected with an old college friend he had ghosted years ago. He even changed how he led his company, valuing people over profits in ways that shocked his board but healed his soul. And every Christmas Eve after that, Richard spent the night with the Bennett family, bringing gifts, stories, and a heart that was no longer closed. Years later, when Oliver was older and Richard's hair had turned gray, the boy asked him if he remembered what he had said on the plane. Richard smiled, eyes moist, and nodded. He remembered every word. That single sentence had saved him from a lifetime of loneliness. It reminded him that success without connection is empty, and that sometimes the smallest voices carry the greatest truths. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone you miss or someone you should reach out to, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive and reaching people who need them most. And before you go, comment one word that this story made you feel, because sometimes, sharing a feeling is the first step to no longer feeling alone.